Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so you know what I always thought was interesting? You know, when people have like their, like when they get focused when they're playing, they got their little like, you know, their way they do their thing, you know? Like some people, you know? Like I always thought that was interesting. Like where did that come from? Like where did it start, you know? Like 100 years ago, were they doing that? Were they doing like the focus? I think, because, you know, it was like a gentleman's type of game, you know? You know, I think that they were just kind of smoking and drinking and, you know, they were doing their stuff. So they weren't really all into the focusy, you know, I don't know. But I always think it's interesting. Every single person has their own little, you know, their own way they do it. I don't know, you know. Anyways, so I have the round, make sure I don't mess it up, the round 6 game for you. Between Wesley and Levon Aronian. For all my people in the Philippines, Mabuhay, kamusta na? Masaya Komu Kita Muli. Appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, taking a look. For anybody who is coming from Armenia, Vok Juven to you, and merci for coming by and taking a look at my video real quick. And as always, merci beaucoup, mes amis. If you're coming from Paris, because, you know, they are playing in Paris right now, so, you know, it's kind of like a little thing. But if you guys are ready to go, let's go. Let's take a look. All right. We got D4, knight F6, C4, E6. Knight comes to C3. We have bishop to B4. We got E3, castles, bishop to D3, and then we have D5. So we have the Nimzo Indian bishop attack classical defense. And these are very kind, as you guys can tell, I mean, I've been doing like, you know, the past like 30, 40 videos, and a lot of them have featured some type of D4, you know, type of opening. You know, you don't see, you know, the craziest amount of like, you know, E4s. And I've literally never seen like a B3, G3, knight F3 type thing. Like those are like super rare, but they're all transposing into them pretty much anyway. We see A3, bishop takes C3, pawn takes C3, pawn takes C4, queen takes C4. Now, it's not significant, but, you know, when you have a situation where the bishop has already developed to E2 or D3, you know, you can kind of claim as black you made white waste the tempo. You know, after pawn takes and then bishop takes, it might be a little bit better than, you know, like, let's say like here, let's say you had like a knight move or something, you had something like this, and let's say you just had like a random move like this. If you kind of can imagine this particular situation, you see that the bishop has pretty much just moved with one swoop. It's not taking like an extra step. So, I mean, you could kind of claim that you made white waste the tempo, but if you don't win a game, then I guess it doesn't really matter. So, anyway, we had these exchanges. Then we have C5. You guys should automatically just imagine when C5 is going to come into position. Either C5 or F5. They're just like so heavily going to get played whenever you have certain structures and stuff like that. So you guys should be pretty good with like understanding structures now. Maybe you guys are playing a little bit better in your own games with understanding the structures. You guys know that at some point C5 is going to come. Has to come. So, like I said, we have C5. Knight comes to F3. We see queen to C7. And this is kind of like X-raying and attack on this bishop a little bit. You definitely don't want the bishop to hang around on that square. Because after trades, the bishop is just going to be sitting there all by itself, like, saying, like, why did you leave me alone? Like, bishop comes to E2. We see B6. Bishop to B2. We got bishop to B7. We have castles by white. Rook to D8. We see rook to E1. Knight coming to C6. And then now we see bishop D3, which is the novelty of the game. And as you guys can see, this bishop moved 3 times. Like, see, 1, 2, 3, no, so it's 4 times it's moved. So, you know, it moving 4 times, like, you're going to get into a novelty pretty quickly. Now, in this position here, as interesting as it seems, we have actually seen A4 in 2012. So, you know, quite a while ago, 9 years ago, a little bit of time. But we do see bishop to D3 in this game. We got E5. Bishop comes down to F1. We see rook to D6. And we have actually reached a point in the game that if you want to try to figure out and guess what white actually can play in this position to get a nice sizable advantage, go ahead and do so now. All right, cool. So, I think it's one of those like moves that it's actually probably pretty hard to find. Like definitely wasn't a move that was on my radar when I was looking at the game. The computer said, "Yeah, man, play this move," and I'm just like, For what? Like, I don't understand what's the big deal with that move. It's actually trying to set something up. So the move in the position is actually e4. And it might look kind of curious. You're like, well, I mean, what's the point of you pushing this pawn? Well, basically, the idea behind it is so that you can push d5. And as you guys notice, you guys do have an E and C pawn here. So if you're able to push d5, especially if you're able to push like c4, you have just like a really gigantic pawn clump in the center of the board. And it's always nice when you get a passed pawn, because now the opponent has to like pretty much babysit the position. So in this position, you do not want to take with the pawn as black, because you're going to be looking at pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes. And of course, as you guys can see, if you take here, you're going to be looking at a fork, and you're going to be losing some material. After e4, the computer really wanted you to play knight to a5. And the idea with that is simple. I mean, you have this pawn here that's only defended by the rook. And so knight to a5 is opening up this bishop on this diagonal. So now you have a double attack on this pawn. And so you're going to end up pushing the pawn. So, I mean, ultimately, it's going to be good for white. But, you know, it's a matter of like kind of picking your poison type deal. Like, do you want to be losing or very losing? So backing up, we actually saw a4 in the game. Actually, no, hold on. There we go. A4 is actually what we saw in the game. Yeah, it's just, I'm not really sure, honestly, like what a4, I mean, is like doing, to be 100%. I don't know, I mean, because the rook can kind of come in. Maybe it's just kind of like just the move. I don't know. I don't have any analysis for you on that move. So we see rook over to e8. We got rook to c1. And this move is always really good because, you know, you guys have this rook now opposite the queen. And so, like, it's not always a guarantee that you're going to have, like, something crazy occur. But whenever you are able to put the rook opposite the queen or the king, you know, there can be some tactics that could roll up, you know. Like, of course, you know, you can, you know, maybe capture here, and there might be some issues coming up. So you never know. We got bishop back to c8. And something I will say about the position is, like, e4, the computer has been like begging for e4 for like 3 moves. So pretty much since I showed you, it's just literally said every single time that you went e4. E4 is there, like, you know, like push e4. So we see h3 in this position. We see bishop to f5. Now, black basically says, okay, you're not going to push e4. Like, white is saying that they never wanted to, and black is saying, I'm making sure you don't. So I guess everybody's in agreement right here with this one. So bishop comes to b5. We see rook down to e7. We got queen to e2. And then black throws in e4 on their own. Now, e4 is kind of like a curious move, to be honest, because this bishop is kind of getting sad. So after knight to d2, you know, you see knight to a5, and you got queen down to d1. But if you did so happen to play knight to f1, you'd be backing up the bishop probably to g6. And then after rook c to d1, h6, you got knight to g3. And as you guys can see, this bishop is really confused. Like, where do I go? Like, I mean, you're just kind of biting on your own pawn. You're not going to be jumping over here. You're not going to be jumping over here. Like, of course, you know, of course, white wants this. Or, yeah, because you're just going to be, like, forking to pieces. But, of course, we're not doing that. But, like I said, I mean, the bishop literally doesn't really have any scope. It doesn't have anywhere to go. So, I think black actually kind of made their bishop a little bit sad. So, coming down, we have queen to d1. We got bishop back to c8. We see bishop down to f1. We got rook to d5. And after the bishop move, you know, black is actually playing pretty precise. You know, they're playing like pretty much all top moves. So they're actually doing fairly well. We got c4, rook to g5. We have f4. Now, something has to give because, I mean, you're looking at, like, you know, bishop takes here. This knight is going to be trying to swing over, like, somewhere in this vicinity. You know, the rook is going to be trying to swing. So it's like you have a lot of kind of threats. Like, the position has opened up quite a bit for black. So, you know, something has to give. G3 is not very good. So we have f4. And then we have e takes f3 en passant. We got queen takes f3. We got rook to f5. We got queen down to d1. Rook back to g5. But as you guys can see, like, things are actually warming up over here a little bit for black. You know, like, you got a line open over here. You got this rook kind of hanging out over here. You know, and that's the thing a king doesn't want. A king doesn't want, like, pieces just hanging out around it. Like don't be by me, like, basically, right? So we got queen back to f3. We see rook to f5. We see queen back down to d1. Rook to g5. Queen back to f3. And it is actually in this position that the players have reached a draw by threefold repetition. Okay, I just realized that the top of the board is kind of cut off. That's a little bit annoying. I literally did the whole video and I did. This thing changes. I don't understand why. I think that's actually good enough, though. I mean, it's pretty much like the tip top, so it's not really cutting it off too bad. It's not the worst ever. It's a little bit annoying now that I realized it. Hopefully it doesn't mess things up too bad. There's not a lot of action going on in the back rank in this game, so I think that's maybe okay. Let me just kind of cycle back through and see if it's that bad. Yeah, it's kind of bad, but it does get better around this point. Yeah. So, I mean, in situations like this, sometimes I'll scrap a video, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and just post it anyway. It's a little bit unfortunate, but it's not as horrible as it could be because the coordinates aren't really up on the top part. So you're just kind of missing the 8, but that's about it. I think we're okay. I'm gonna go ahead and chance it. So don't mention this in the comments. I've already recognized that. So anyway, going back to what we were talking about in the video, we did see a threefold repetition at this point in the game. Now, another possible continuation after queen to d1 is actually black going queen to g3. It's going to end up pretty much being roughly the same situation. It's not going to be so bad. But you know, it is going to be just slightly better for black, if anything. But it was maybe something you could try. So after queen to g3, you know, you could see e4. Rook comes down to f4. We see queen to e2. Knight takes e4, queen to e3, which is forcing the queen trade. Queen takes e3, rook takes e3, and you know, this rook is not going to move. I mean, this knight is not going to move because this rook is going to be dropping. So you're probably going to be playing like f5 or something. You know, but you know, maybe it's a game. You know, you never know. But yes. I almost always catch when the board, because literally the board every time before I record does this. It'll either shift up or shift down, or like it's always some weird thing. I don't understand how to fix it. So I just neglected to check it this time, which is kind of annoying. But hopefully it doesn't mess up the video too bad. And it'd be kind of crazy if this video ends up being like my best video ever. But it's gonna be kind of like a blooper video. I think I'm gonna go ahead and add it into the blooper reel of the videos. It'll just kind of be dually in that thing as well. So it's gonna be one of those laugh situations and stuff that you're gonna come across. But yeah, it's just kind of whack, man. It's annoying, but I don't want to have to do the video again. Like, I'm just gonna go ahead and post it, and it's just gonna be what it is. But for all of my people in the Philippines, I got the rest of these good mornings, so I'm gonna see how far I can get through to them. So maayong buntag, mayad na agahan, nainbeg na bigat, masento siya kapasan, marhe na aga, buenos dias, maayong aga. Yeah, mapia na uma, kapian kapuno dios. Mayap a abak, mayad na aga, mapia agay, mapia kapapita. My big nabukla, bukla, my big abukla. There is Maraja Nabuntag. Yes, Maraya Mainat. I think it's Malpe. Yeah, Mape. Yeah, Mape Naaga. And Kasanyangan C Lub. For sure, I got it. I apologize for the board. Like I said, hopefully it didn't mess it up too crazy. And I am normally like almost 100% with checking it before I do the video. But it just changes, man. It's really irritating. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. And I'll see y'all next time.